begins as a dream inside of a house, that special house, the house of my deep dreams, which I have never been in physically, but holds a definite place in my dreaming life. After some mundane tasks of housework, I go downstairs. Here it is transformed. I'm now outdoors in the gardens of a Buddhist temple, various people meditating around me. I walk the gardens, taking in the sights of golden statues, elegant shrines, and prayer stations. I also observe that off to the side are several areas separated from the main temple by glass sheets. These are dark and ancient places, parts of a far older temple that once stood here. For a brief time I walk with an inspector, who's come here to make sure all of the gardens of the temple are in working order. Afterwards, I join the others here, a good many people, in meditating. As I begin to get deep into the meditation, everything suddenly goes dark, completely without light. I look into the old temple area and I can see subtle purple glow beginning to form, which gradually grows brighter until it shines subtly in the darkness. Then the light returns and I can see up into the sky above. Yet it is filled with black, tentacle-like things, enormous and ropey as they twist and squirm over the length of the sky. It is then that I remember. I have seen this before, in long-forgotten memories of a previous cycle of creation. In another age I witnessed this before, and I know what to do. We all reach deep within our hearts, into our souls, and we bring forth the light within, letting it out in a luminous, energetic burst. All around us the world changes. The black tentacles are gone. The sky is clear. We begin life on a transformed world. A world of peace, of fellowship, and of harmony. As the band REM once famously sang, "It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine." This dream brings to mind that quote, because it does have a certain apocalyptic feel to it. Immense, horrifying things happening in the sky, all the world turning to darkness, and then bam, a shift, and it's all good. It also brings to mind various other dreams I've had. Occasionally, I do have dreams like this. They're not a common thing, but they do happen. I've had dreams, visions of stepping through portals into new, higher realities. I've had dreams of waves washing over the world, waves of energy, and transforming everything in a sudden moment. Yes, I've had dreams of what they call ascension, of raising myself, or others as well, to a higher state of consciousness, a greater perspective on the self and existence. I could look at this at a surface level of interpretation. I could take the psychoanalytical view of things. I could say that this dream and others like it, whether I'm having them or other people are having them, are just symbols for our own inner transformation. Looked at it simply enough, a dream like this could be said to be reflective of my own experiences with meditation, with stilling my own mind. When that happens, you could say the ego is darkened. That when that occurs, you can finally see that which has been there all along. These horrific tentacles which represent the fears and beliefs and attachments that have been separating us from the sky or that inner divinity. And that when that occurs, there is an enlightenment, an outpouring of light that gets rid of that stuff, that finally clears the way and allows you to, in your own psyche, enter into a golden age. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. That sounds fine and dandy. But I have to admit, there's something unsatisfying about it just being about my own personal journey. It's a big part of me, and probably a big part of other people that have these too, that want it to be a global event, that want it to extend into the physical. And I'm going to use this dream as a springboard to talk about that phenomenon. The phenomenon of the end times. Prophecies of Armageddon, the apocalypse, or, on the more positive side of things, a mass transformation. Not just of consciousness, but of our bodies themselves, as we all spontaneously turn into light beings. Hey, to you people out there who are just like, get into this sort of thing, that might sound crazy as fuck. But to those like me who have been immersed in the New Age, in the alternative community for a number of years, this stuff is common. In fact, it has been throughout history. Whether you're talking about self-proclaimed Christian prophets, they're talking about the rapture happening and give an exact date for it. Whether you're talking about prophecies of the millennium around 2000 that said either the world was going to end or we would ascend into a new Aquarian age. Or even whether you're talking about things like 2012 and all the big drama and build up to that year, which was filled with all sorts of predictions. Whether you're talking about a physical pole shift happening, massive earthquakes, world hit by a comet, or the aforementioned mass ascensions in various shapes and forms. The internet, especially, is a place filled with these predictions now. They keep popping up. If you know the right places to look, and I'm not going to give any websites, but there's a lot of websites from channelers that like to talk about impending energy shifts. But, of course, there's also things like people claiming to predict earthquakes. People claiming to be working with secret societies or other conspiratorial groups that claim to have insider information on some kind of impending shift. I'm not going to claim in this video that I'm making one of these predictions. In all likelihood, the dream is just a personal thing. I wasn't given a date. I wasn't told by some cosmic being to start spreading the word to the non-believers, warning the masses of an impending event so they can be prepared. No, I wasn't told any of that stuff, but I did experience the dream. It was a beautiful, cool experience. And you know what? That's about all I can say about it for certain. I could say that it did reflect some powerful transformative stuff going on in my life during the couple days preceding, but that would be a lie. Yeah, there's changes going on in my life. Things are shifting. Probably, at least from the conscious level, I don't see it being anything quite as dire or as powerful as that dream would suggest. But of course, you could always say our own inner environment is dire and powerful to us, no matter what our perceptions of it are. So, there you have that. But yeah, all the time, from various sources, often from the same sources, you get these predictions popping up. And I've been at points in my spiritual journey where I really wanted to believe these. Even though I can't ever claim to have been a 100% believer in them. As in, I would base my life decisions on that. I did want them to be true, particularly all that mass ascension stuff. Still nowadays, I occasionally look at these websites and listen to these people talk about their predictions of big changes. And a part of me really resonates with that. It feels like that's freaking awesome. That said, it was said by somebody, I don't quite recall who, but now it's said by me, that there's one thing every end of the world prophecy throughout history shares in common. None of them have come true. That's an interesting thing to consider. If you really look at the record, year after year, in fact every year, since there's been an internet, you see predictions of bam, a sudden shift, sudden change, or huge disaster. Personally, I can't recall any that have happened. If there have been some of these events that have occurred, let me know. If you viewers out there know of any real accurate prophet types, please let me know, and I'll pay attention to these dudes or chicks. Till then, I will remain neutral and skeptical, especially of any visions I receive. So why are we so fixated on these? Or at least why are some of us so fixated on them? Well, I'll speak for myself and say that the end of the world, or even the end of an age, is a very tempting concept to indulge in, especially for those who maybe aren't feeling like they're leading a magical, charmed life. Every day you go to work, and it seems like the same thing that you did yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. Same shit, different day, as they would say. Feels like a trap. Like a game that you keep playing and playing and playing, and there is no victory, there is no end to it. What people see, I feel, in these end times prophecies and the ascension prophecies is a way out. A simple, easy way out. They see relief. They see release. And I know a lot of you folks out there probably say, no, I don't want to see this nasty stuff happen. I don't want to see the badness and the harm come to people. No, you don't. You don't, but at the same time, there's this part in many of us that says, yeah, I want to see change happen. My life is hell. Nothing can be worse than that. Any change would be good, even if it's for the worse for a bit. At least it's change. And most people that I've met overall aren't all that happy. This is an easy way for them to have a chance at being happy. Particularly for the more positive events that people predict. Maybe it's going to be a mass landing of our space brothers who will be nice to us, who will usher in a golden age of peace, sharing their free energy technology, their teleportations, their flying saucers. It'll be awesome. There'll be love. There'll be freedom all around. Inside of me, I do feel like there is a grain of truth to a lot of these stories. There's a lot of lies there too. Like I said before, none of the predictions have come to pass, at least in the physical, observable realm where people have shared experiences. Now, you can of course claim that they have come to pass in this non-physical domain or in a higher vibration where only the enlightened, that only the worthy can see them. Perhaps the mass ascension has already occurred and we're all just too materialistic, base, and stupid to perceive it. And you know what? Maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe there's truth to those claims. But in that case, no real use talking about any of it. And it does become sort of like that story of the emperor's new clothes, where the emperor got a new set of clothing that just so happened to be invisible and imperceptible to those who weren't good or wise or enlightened enough to see it. Now in that story, the clothing was ultimately a lie. But because of the claimed nature of things, where you have to be at the right vibration to see something, to connect with it, then people can come up with all sorts of rubbish. And my personal opinion on a lot of that stuff is, a lot of this material is that it's rubbish. That it's intentionally put out there to deceive. I'm not trashing all the material out there though. I am not trashing the very idea of ascension. The idea that we can rise above our physical existence. I feel there's enough evidence out there about it. That there are enough teachings that are legitimate, that if we follow them in the right way, we can achieve that. What I do have a bit of issue with is the idea that it all just happened to us, effortlessly, without our interaction, without us going through that personal journey of self-empowerment, of growth, of learning. It doesn't have to be a hard journey. It could just be a moment of enlightenment where you realize what's true and what's been holding you back. But to me, the best way to do it is to make it personal, to strive for it. Throughout mythology and semi-history, we have examples of people who have achieved this higher state of being, what certain people call the light body, what others call the rainbow body. From people like Jesus or Buddha, to the rest of those that they describe as ascended masters, to the various saints in Hinduism and Catholicism. And there's also a vast record of people in Tibet and other countries who have achieved this illuminated state of existence. It's certainly possible. And if I were some insidious being, if I were, say, a member of the Cabal or the Illuminati, or a negative entity dwelling on the edges of consciousness and trying to keep people trapped in an illusion, well, here's something I would do. I would keep them in the same day-to-day cycle, the same day-to-day rhythm that always sounds the same, that always doesn't really take him anywhere. And the moment they started seeing a way out, I would then create my own fake way out. A hope that they didn't have to work for, that in fact would distract them from their real path. I would create this fake hope, and I would get people to rely on it. Because, well, that's easier than walking the real path. That's easier than finding the real exit out of the illusion or the matrix. I would create something like a false hope of ascension, that you don't have to do anything, you don't have to meditate, you don't have to work for it. You don't have to work on yourself or release your own issues. It's just gonna happen. The Galactic Federation's gonna do it for you. The Ascended Masters are gonna do it for you. Y'all gonna ascend, unless you're real evil, vile people. I'd make something like that. And when it didn't pan through, or when it didn't happen, when all those predicted events didn't occur, people would be thrown into a state of despair. They would give up on it. They would think, yeah, even the stuff I was working on before was bullshit, because this mass ascension didn't happen. So this is what I really have to say on this subject. It's not that all that information out there is necessarily false. There's probably some good, legitimate people giving their own personal impressions of what they've seen to be true. Now, of course, there are liars out there, and there's people who are probably influenced by unpleasant energies somewhere in the non-physical who are being lied to. There's a lot of things to consider. And I feel that there probably are a lot of folks giving legitimate advice about the shifting cosmic energies. They're talking about things from this not quite physical perspective. People out there talking bullshit too. How do you tell the difference? Well, I suppose you could say use your intuition, go with what's in your heart. Problem with that is a lot of people that are relying on others for information do so because they don't have a connection to their intuition. They don't have a connection to what's in their heart. Or if they do, they're doubting it. I can admit sometimes I do too. I'm saying that, yeah, look at it with the possibility that, yeah, sure, there could be a mass ascension of everybody. There could be these cosmic events that raise our perceptions, that make us one with everything. Or there could be these energies coming in that allow us to further our own growth a bit easier. that give us those opportunities. But what I'm saying is I want to act like all that stuff isn't true. Because if I'm going to rely on an external hope, that's going to keep me mired in the same old stuff again and again, waiting for something else to happen. Whether there is an event of great and galactic proportions coming up or not, it doesn't matter. I'm still working on my own spiritual path. I'm still working on raising my consciousness, raising my vibration, being a nicer, more loving, more forgiving person. Working on detaching from all the things that hold me back, moving forward into what works for me, and ultimately working towards my own personal ascension as a goal. If I can bring others along with me in that, great. If they want to come along with me, awesome. But if they don't, that's their business. And in a way, I'd almost feel cheated out of my own personal journey if it just happened without my own efforts. So, there's a few thoughts from me on this subject. An interesting subject, a subject I'll probably be talking about a lot more on this channel in the future. Provided the mass ascension doesn't happen tomorrow, which could always be the case. And in that case, I'll be talking to you on the psychic internet, where we are all one. So I'll see you all next time, my friends, either way. Peace out.